So it's another roasty toasty day, and I've just changed the girls' water to make sure they've got nice fresh water, nice and cool. And they've got some spinach in there and they're having a munch on that. And they're quite happy. There's been a lot happening in the world of chickens here at my garden and the dinosaurs who live there. So we have little Emily there, broody. I think this is probably her 3rd week. She's having a nice drink of water there. So yeah, she's well broody. I've got the coop open at the moment. You can see the nest box is open, the door is open, and that's getting lots of nice fresh air in, and it's discouraging Emily from going and sitting in the nest box, which is what we want to do, particularly in this terribly, terribly hot weather. So yeah, she's not happy about it, but we'll keep her out of the nest box as much as possible. Hamble is doing fine, touch wood, as is Matilda. I think Jemima's in a molt at the minute. Lots more feathers to go. And then over here, we've got Edith, who's fine also. They're all a bit hot, but yeah, I'm keeping them as cool as I can do. You may notice though that someone's missing from the flock, and that is lovely Beryl. I'll take you to see Beryl shortly, but the bottom line is, for the past week and a half, she's been very unwell. A couple of weeks ago, or just under a couple of weeks ago, she had been fine one day, the next she was a bit subdued. Her crop, which is the sort of holding area of the food that they eat, her crop wasn't going down as it should. It was a bit full, and she wasn't really wanting to eat. So long story short, and I'll explain in a bit more detail when we go and see Beryl, we discovered that she had septic peritonitis. So basically her abdominal cavity was full of disgusting septic bacteria-filled fluid. That was then pressing on her gizzard, which is sort of their stomach. That gizzard was being pushed upwards by the fluid, and that was in turn sort of preventing the crop from emptying as it should. And also the fact that it was a terrible infection meant that she was very unwell indeed. At the time, the prognosis was very poor. It's not an easy thing to recover from, but touch wood, fingers crossed, etc. Beryl is doing well. She's still here, still with us. She's just inside now. She was at the vet for a week. We've got her back home now, and we're nursing her back home and giving her copious quantities of drugs. Anyway, we'll go and see Beryl and I can explain a little bit more. So here is Beryl. She's in a pen that has got lots of shavings, wood chip I should say, down. And it was all nice and clean, but actually I put in some earth into, it's like an old cat litter tray, so that she can have a dust bath. And she has now fired all of this all over her pen, but that's okay. She doesn't mind that. They dig in the dirt all the time. So let me tell you a bit about Beryl. She has had a history of egg-laying problems, and she did get a touch of peritonitis, but not a septic peritonitis, a couple of years ago, because she had laid eggs, but they hadn't actually come out. So basically the yolk part of the eggs were all congealed inside her reproductive system, and some spilled out into her abdominal cavity, and they became infected, and we she had to actually have an operation to clean her out. But she bounced back from that really well, and we've been giving her hormone implants about every 4 months, and that stops her producing any eggs, which then means that she won't get any nasties happening. But excuse me, 2 times ago, so 2 implants ago, if you like, she, when one implant wore off, she started laying, and she actually laid a few okay eggs. And we wondered at that time maybe if the problem with her reproductive system had sorted itself out, because she, originally, when she started laying, she was laying fine. So we wondered if it had been some sort of infection and it had settled back down again. But a couple of weeks in, she started laying soft-shelled eggs and then stopped laying externally, and we thought that she was starting to lay internally again, so we gave her her implant, and that was fine. Then a few weeks ago, that implant wore off, and she went into lay, laying perfect eggs, no soft-shelled eggs, no problems with eggs, just perfect eggs every 2 to 3 days, and she did that for a couple of weeks. I was keeping a really close eye on her. She was brilliant, bounding around the garden, eating tons, really happy hen. And I thought, well, maybe we don't, we can delay giving her that other implant, or maybe we don't need to. Maybe things have sorted themselves out again. But she then stopped laying just for a week. But she didn't seem like she was wanting to lay. You can tell when a hen wants to lay because they crouch when you sort of lean over them, as though they were expecting a cockerel to jump on their back, and that's a sign that they're either coming into lay or going to lay. Now, Beryl had stopped doing that, so I wondered if she had just come out of lay again. But and she was happy and fine, and I was making sure I kept a close eye on her. But going from 2 Sundays ago, being absolutely perky, fantastic, eating tons, running around the garden, to the Monday morning, all of a sudden she wasn't right. She, her crop was a bit full, and that's the sort of first port of call for food and liquid when they eat and drink. It's sort of just an esophageal pouch, I think they call it, and that's where the food collects and then gradually goes through their stomach and into their digestive system. But her crop wasn't emptying as it should do, and she wasn't particularly hungry, not wanting to eat, and she was a bit subdued. So next day, we took her to the vet the following morning, and I said, yeah, maybe we'd better get the implant in, which we did. And they said, well, maybe she's just it's that's bothering her, and get the implant in, should sort itself out, but we'll give her some antibiotics and anti-inflammatories to help her along the way. And that was fine. A couple of days later, her crop still wasn't emptying. It was actually really quite large, so I was wondering if it's actually more a crop problem rather than a reproductive problem. Went back again, and the vet said, no, I think we'll sedate her and have a look inside the crop and maybe do some x-rays. So we left her at the vet's that day, and that evening they said, well, we've taken a lot of liquid out of the crop, but we're not really seeing what we expected to see. We took an x-ray, and actually what we found is lots of fluid in her abdominal cavity. The vet couldn't feel her being fluidy, and neither could I, so you couldn't feel it from the outside, which quite often is the case, but she definitely had fluid. And the vet took some of that off, and she said it was disgusting, foul, brown, obviously full of bacteria. So bottom line is she had septic peritonitis, and that's just not good. Not good for hens at all, not good for chickens at all. And at that point, she said, right, we've tried, she's been on some antibiotics, and I think by that point it was a week or just less than a week. She said we could put her on some other antibiotics to see if they help, but ideally the choices are we'll send a sample away and get it cultured so that we can see exactly the antibiotic or antibiotics that can combat this. She said the only other alternative is to have her put to sleep because it's really serious. So not good, not the good thing to hear, but I wanted to give her a chance, and she wasn't, I mean, she wasn't looking great, but she wasn't hiding in a corner with her head under her wing, so I thought there was a chance. And so that's what we did. They've sent away the sample. It takes about a week though, so it'll be a few more days until, well, maybe 3 or 4 days until we hear. In the meantime, they were pumping her full of different antibiotics and stuff to get her guts moving, etc, etc. Then, so that she was still in the vets at this point, and then a couple of days ago the vet said, well, she's sort of quite, you know, she perks up when she leaves the pen. She's not eating great. We're still tube feeding her. They were actually pushing a tube down to give her food, and they said, well, and we had been out, actually we'd been out a couple of days before. We had one of the quail at the vets, and while we were there, we saw Beryl, and I actually took some sweet corn and some grapes, and I managed to get her to eat some. So the vets and the vet nurse said, well, you know, since you can get her to eat, maybe if we give you all the different drugs that she's got to get, you could have her at home and see if you can coax her to eat and nurse her. And that's what we did. So she came back home Thursday, and this is now Saturday, and we've managed to get her to eat. She's eaten a little bit of her mix, her chicken food, but mostly it's been things such as broccoli and sweet corn and grapes and watermelon. Basically anything that we can get her to take, we are trying to get her to take it. And she's lettuce and cabbage as well. You'll see there's some cabbage there. Of course, all of this is compounded by the fact that she is almost blind. So, you know, just coaxing her to eat, you've got to sort of put your hand under her and sort of make a little cluck cluck noise so she knows there's food there, and then she'll have a peck at it to see if she likes it. So there's no sort of eye sight stimulation to make her excited about food. It's all in touch really, and smell, I guess. So yeah, so it's it's all been very, very tricky. But at the moment, she's doing great. She's absolutely not out of the woods yet. The drugs that we're giving her seem to be keeping her going anyway. It might be that when they do the culture that some of the antibiotics she's getting are the right ones anyway, but we won't know till, as I say, 3 or 4 days time. So yeah, it's really just a case of nursing her. While I've been talking, she's been having a great little dust bath. So she's obviously still enjoying things like that, and we let her out the pen and she has a meander around the room, and at night time in particular she's sort of keen to get up high, but she can't really jump up high because of her eyesight, so we're sort of plonking her on the couch next to hers or whatever, and she's quite active. So yeah, fingers crossed we get her through this, because it has been a nasty one, I have to say. But yeah, so that's the bold Beryl. What's she on? She's on, well, when I got her home on Thursday, 7 different things twice a day. Well, actually one of them's only once a day. So there's various antibiotics, there's anti-inflammatories, there's things to get her gut moving. In fact, that was an interesting thing. Well, I find it interesting anyway. The reason her crop wasn't emptying was because all the fluid in her abdomen was pushing on her other internal organs. And so one of these internal organs is the gizzard, and that's really sort of their stomach, or part of their stomach. And the gizzard was being pushed up, and that's next to the crop. The crop should drain food into the gizzard, and because the gizzard was like getting pushed out of place, the crop wasn't able to empty, and that's why she had this sort of crop issue that was one of the most obvious things about her being unwell. So yeah, so it's been a learning curve again, and it's just it's a case in point. However hard you look and however careful you are about, you know, keeping a watch on your chickens to see if they're unwell, they still hide it so well until they can't hide it anymore. And that's really been the case with Beryl. She was fantastic right up until the day before. And, I picked her up, felt her abdomen, there was nothing to feel. Her crop at that point was fine. She was eating lots, she was active. There was just nothing to see. And then the next day she was pretty much starting to get to death's door. So there you have it. So yeah, she's a happy girl making lots of mess, as you can see. And we'll just keep persuading her to eat and give her nice tasty morsels, and keep giving her all the various pills and potions, and hopefully, I do hope that we can get her through this. She does seem happy, she's not subdued, so it's not that her quality of life's terrible right now, it's okay, but there's a way to go yet. So that's yet another worrying story about the lovely Beryl. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed this video, found it educational perhaps. If you have enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. Oh, where's my thumb? There it is. Please give me a thumbs up. Leave any comments, that would be great to hear from you, and I will talk to you again very, very soon and give you more updates on how Beryl is getting on. Bye bye for now. Bye.